summer months and everything else. That's up to be understood, I guess. So we have a lot on the agenda, but we'll take our time and go through these diligently. So the first thing I would like to do after opening up the meeting is ask each of our leadership team members to just briefly describe what their role is, because we always have new members attending, and I don't think it hurts for us to all be remembered of that. So let's start with Mr. Raslier and move around this way.
What were you eating?
All right, well, let's start with Kathy then and move around this way. Let's.
I can't hear you guys because they're really chatting back there.
Oh,
Just to
Okay.
let you know.
okay.
Thank you. So, so
So-
we need to have one meeting going on. Thank you. So Kathy, we'll start this way so John can finish his
Thank you.
cookie or whatever it is.
Want me to talk real slow? You got a meal?
He's not sharing, so.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Guerrero, and I'm the director for First Five El Dorado, and we are partner in your community hubs, and I represent healthy communities to talk about how our kids in our communities are thriving.
I'm Cindy Munt, Supervisor Heidel's assistant, and I do community information and outreach for the council.
I'm John Idle, District 1 Supervisor.
That's the easiest one.
I know.
I'm John Davey. I'm the chair of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. We're a group of resident volunteers that examine proposed development in El Dorado Hills and provide feedback to the planning process.
John Raslier. I'm here on this board. I represent the folks in District 2 on this council.
Very good. And Tim, why don't you acknowledge since you're on so many other things as well as APAC, so
Yeah.
might as well.
John said I'm on APAC. I'm also the president of the El Dorado Fire Board, and I'm one of the 2 special district representatives on the El Dorado Hills LAFCO Local Agency Formation Committee.
Very good. And then Raelene and Tita, why don't you both acknowledge what your role is? You're going to be guest speakers, but let's get a microphone for you.
I'm Raelene Nunn. I'm a commissioner on the Commission on Aging, District 1, and I'm also a senior senator for the California Senior Legislature.
Tita Bladen, also on the El Dorado County Commission on Aging, and I'm also on the California Senior Legislature as the Senior Assembly Member.
Supervisor Turnbull told me he would be able to make it this evening, but maybe he got detained for some reason. But Robert, why don't you got a microphone there?
I don't. I just speak very loudly.
Okay.
Bob Williams, Planning Commissioner.
Very good. Thank you. For District 2. So, all right. Excellent. With that, I think we've recognized everybody except who's online. I'm looking at attendees. Panelists. Oh, David. Yeah, David Spar, who represents us in the transitioning CDAC to what we think is going to be called SEED. So, David, would you please describe your brief activities so far, waiting for the moment where we can really engage you and start doing some different things with SEED than we did with CDAC, but please introduce yourself.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Supervisor. I appreciate that. I live in District 1 in Highland View. I'm a new member to SEED, the Economic Development Committee, 40 years experience in economic development. I'm a consultant, part-time, semi-retired, but I'd like to give back to El Dorado County where I live. So I've been volunteering to do some work here, and it's an honor to serve on the committee. We hope to integrate the comprehensive economic development strategy, the economic development staff, and the new California Jobs First, which is soon to be completed around August 30th with Valley Vision, and we're one of 8 counties that's participating along with Valley Vision. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. And I'll just note, since we've got it later on in the meeting, that the Board of Supervisors will receive a briefing on the changes that are being proposed by the Economic Development Team on June 18th. So it's coming up fast. So that would include bylaws revisions and other things. So that's, I think, going to be the decision point that says, yes, the board adopts these, move forward. We can now get into the formal SEED, if that's what is going to be called, the organizational aspect. So it's been a long time in coming, but I think we're very close is the bottom line. So thank you all for that. And I guess that covers everyone. I was looking at attendees rather than promotions that people have had. So I don't see anyone else on there. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to item 2, adoption of our regular meeting agenda. Does anyone on the leadership team have proposed changes? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted as presented. We'll move on to item 3, public comments. This is the segment of the meeting that we allow anyone from the public to speak on an item that's not on tonight's agenda. So you can provide a comment, a complaint, a recommendation, whatever it is. And if we have a lot of comments, we'll have to hold them to 3 minutes, but I'm not expecting that to happen. So we try to give you some liberty to make sure you finish your comments before we move on to a different commenter. So with that, is there anyone in the room who would like to speak under public comments? We just need to make sure you have one of the portable mics available to you. And this is the way we communicate with people on Zoom. You're not going to hear the amplification in the room. So that's not going to help you with, if you're having a hard time hearing us in the room, that won't help. But it will help people on Zoom to hear your comment, your question, whatever it is. So with that, I'll open it up to any public comments. Anyone? Bill Knox, yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I would just like to commend everyone here, and especially you, John and Cindy, for including on the agenda the grand jury reports for the civil grand jury. As I've said before, the civil grand jury is a very important area for the community to be involved. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comments in the room? Seeing none, I'm not seeing any hands raised either. So, all right, so we'll move on then to item 4, guest speakers. So it's my privilege to introduce again, Raelene, Nunn, and Tita Bladen. And they're on the El Dorado County Commission on Aging. And they want to share with us some of their activities that are going on, their outreach plans, if you will, and some other topics related to senior services and housing, because that's one of the major roles that the commission has looked at is housing for seniors, and how do we make sure that it's affordable for all categories of seniors, not just a downsizing of their particular property, but something that might be more suitable for a single senior that needs to move from a larger estate into an apartment, whatever it may be. So it's a whole spectrum of housing opportunities for seniors. So with that, Raelene, you've got the floor.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Oh, that's only for the Zoom.
It's only for Zoom, so you're not going to hear application
okay.
in the room. They're going to upgrade their system. The fire
Okay.
department is what I've been told, but for now, that's all we can do.
Well, let me try again. Can you hear me now? Because I'm not a very loud speaker, so I'll give it my best shot here.
Yes,
But
we can
anyway,
hear you.
Can you
Okay,
hear me
good.
now? Okay, I could yell yet and go to the next level. But anyway, thank you, John, and for inviting us to share with you the Commission on Aging. And Tita and I are both members of the commission, as you've heard. And we are going to like to share with you who the commission is. And the commission is really a principal advocacy body in the county for our older adults. And we promote the services that are available to us in the county because we have many, many services available. But it's the best kept secret in the county. Nobody knows them. So we're trying to help county staff get that information out. So we're also advisory to the Board of Supervisors so that when we hear of issues, concerns, needs of our citizens, we try to get to them and let them know what's happening because we are out and amongst the seniors a great deal. And one of the things I thought was kind of interesting I'd like to share with you is our older population, 55 and above, based on latest statistics that I think I've seen, is 40%. So that's a pretty good number of us out there. So there's a lot for us to think about with that number. And we also work with the Area Agency on Aging, which is out of Placerville and is a senior AAA office. And we work with them to do what we can to support them as well. There are 14 volunteer commissioners. There's 6 appointed by the supervisors. And then we have 1 from each of our 2 cities, South Lake Tahoe and Placerville, and 6 community representatives. So that's the 14 of us that work together in our efforts. And our commission, we celebrated really our great event of the year, at least for me, is we celebrated all of those wonderful people who are volunteering their time, and we call it the Senior of the Year. And it's been going on quite a while, and we have a celebration of those. We encourage people to nominate individuals who have given so much of their time to the county through volunteering in their efforts. So it's an annual event, and this year we had 18 individuals, 4 of whom were couples, nominated. We had one from El Dorado Hills, and that was great. It was Christopher and Marilla Smith. They were nominated and have been very active in their community. And over the past several years, we've had a number of nominees from El Dorado Hills, and we've even had some named Senior of the Year. So our citizens here in El Dorado Hills are very generous with their gift of time. And so following up, our situation is we have the nominations. So next year, about April, look for applications to send in nominations and nominate those individuals who do so much for the county and for the neighborhoods and for other organizations. And so our Senior of the Year this year was a gentleman by the name of David Zielinski. I don't know if anybody knows him, but he's quite an avid volunteer. And so we celebrated him, and we also had a reception as well as a presentation of his award by the Board of Supervisors. So we kind of have a great party to celebrate. And our COA, Commission on Aging, we have several committees. And one of those is Aging Independently. And under the leadership of the Aging Independently Committee, the COA recently conducted a survey of the county residents in an effort to improve the county residents' understanding and awareness of the factors required to successfully age in your home and independently. And the data suggested that financial planning was an important factor, which I'm sure we all know. But as a result, the COA is currently working to develop seminars that we hope to be having out soon that we can share with all the residents, which will help them understand and know about financial issues in our efforts to age independently. And then we have the Outreach Committee, and that one's very close to me. And we are there to really hear from the seniors. We want to know from the seniors. We are their advocates. We are out there and we want to hear all of the concerns, issues, and desires that they want to discuss with us. And then additionally, we do the one part that is so important is to try to get the information out regarding our many, many programs. And we have this wonderful brochure, and it's on the back table. These many programs are available to anyone 60 years and over. No income limits. Hopefully, they're there for us. And I'll talk about them in a little bit. So we work with the Area Agency on Aging County staff to really supplement their effort. They don't have enough staff to do all of the informational presentations and events, so we help them with that. In fact, we'll be supporting them at the El Dorado County Fair. So hopefully everybody comes out to the fair June 13th to June 16th. So if you haven't been to the fair, it's quite an experience. So you'll think about that. And we also attend several events throughout the county, but we also do them here in El Dorado Hills, and I have so much fun going to the senior center on Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, and Cinco de Mayo, and we're there and try to spread the word about what our programs
Your microphone went away.
Gotta keep it-
Sorry.
Yeah, you gotta keep it
My
close. There you
arm
go.
got tired. But I'll try again. And then we also attend community events. And now this is the one that I really think we focus a lot on this area because we go to events where there are young people. We go to trunk or treat and see all the kiddos. And we go to National Night Out down in El Dorado Hills. And the reason we do that is what we find and what we know is there are many, many young people who now have responsibility for their parents, others in their family. And so our programs can help them as well. So we really try to focus on all ages just to make sure that they're aware of everything we have. And one of the things we're going to be doing, which is really, I think I'm going to find interesting to share with you, is that we're going to start working with the El Dorado County Realtors. And that's going to be in a situation where we're making a presentation to the County Association of Realtors. And then we're going to provide those realtors and brokers with packets to hand out to their people that are moving into the county. Because you can't move from Sacramento County into El Dorado and have the same thing. You have basically, the names are the same, but the way they are handled and the way they are administered are different. So that includes your insurance, that includes the way you get legal services, all of those kind of things. So, so that I'm looking forward to start doing that probably in August. And we also provide packets to the food bank so that those folks up there know that we have services available. And we're also now starting the churches. We just started that and are giving out packets to them. We provide the monthly article in the Senior Times, and the Senior Times, if you didn't see it, is right back there. So pick it up on your way out. It's very informative, lots of good articles, lots of good information. And it's probably the cheapest paper you'll ever buy. $5 for a year. So it isn't like you're throwing your money away. But if you have any interest in seniors, that is a great publication. And we're also thinking about trying, and have been trying, to put some articles in other publications as well. So that I'm excited to think we might be able to pull that off. And so I thought I'd take a few minutes. I have a few minutes more I can talk about about the program. And these are the programs. We have, I'll not go through them all, but we have, I know, some caregivers, and we have great support for caregivers. Not for the person you're taking care of, but it's for you, the caregiver. And so if you know anybody in that situation, taking care of someone, be sure to look into it because it's hugely supportive. We also have
I think the microphone needs to be in front of your mouth, not by your ear.
okay.
There you go.
Well, sorry about that. We also have my favorite, Health Insurance Counseling and Advocacy Program. And that one's very close to me. And what that is it's a program that we're all volunteers, and we want to help you understand Medicare and the options that you will be seeing in October. There's always open enrollment October to December, and you're inundated with a lot of material. We're there to help you sort through that, unbiased, just trying to make sure you walk away an informed consumer and decide the programs that'll work best for you. And if you have appeals, we handle appeals, and we handle long-term care insurance as well. So that's a great program. And then, of course, I can't not say the long-term care ombudsman program, which is one of those ombudsmans is sitting right over there and been doing it for a number of years. And he's a gift to the whole county because this is services that are provided at assisted living and where they can be advocates for them. And of course, our senior nutrition program is wonderful. We have now, I think we're getting close to a full staff, and I think we will see that pick up. And it's a wonderful program. If you would like to make friends, go to the senior center, have a lunch. It's just really great. And if you need home delivered meals, if you don't have opportunity to go to the market because you're disabled, you can have meals delivered to you at your home. So it's wonderful that way. So anyway, that's just a few of the programs I thought I'd share. But then I wanted to talk just a minute about our CSD El Dorado Hills Gilmore Center, because it's a special place. For anyone over 50 years old, you can meet, participate in activities, and make new friends. And now we're seeing the number of activities are really growing and expanding. So they're getting into a great rhythm down there with lots and lots of participants and activities. So I really think that the resources and recreation guide is filled with activities. So take a look at that and you'll find a lot of good things to do. And I just have to say one thing about the CSD staff and El Dorado staff. They work so hard, and they work with a passion, which you don't always find in staff. And they provide such meaningful support and outstanding activities to our seniors. But coming out of COVID, this was kind of an interesting thing that happened. Out of COVID, all the staffing changed in El Dorado Hills in the senior. And it turned out that the folks from up the hill administering these programs did not know these people down here. So arranged for a meeting of all those two groups, and brought them together. They got to know each other, and right now they are communicating, working together, collaborating. And I think that one thing I noticed that tells me it's working is El Dorado Hills is mentioned more often in the senior times. So it is working. And so with the staff from both of the organizations, we are so fortunate. It's all there for us to use and enjoy. So that's what I was going to share with you. But Tita's got another committee to share with her information. So I'll let you talk with her.
Raelene, before you leave, I just wanted to tell everybody that Raelene and I have been scheming off to the side because we looked at the fact that there are so many homes now being planned, thousands of homes really being earmarked for senior use. And it just made sense for the Planning Commission and the Commission of Aging to get together to make sure those are as they should be.
Right.
And they really do reflect the needs of the seniors. And so
we're working on it.
So we're working on that. There'll be more to come, but we
Right.
think that's a very promising coalition.
I think it's going to be wonderful.
Okay,
I'm
thank you,
anxious to
Raelene.
chat with you right after our meeting
Well,
today.
no, we'll follow up. We'll have plenty of time, okay?
No, it'll be great, and I'm looking forward to it so much.
Wherever you want.
So I'm Tita Bladen. I'm also on the Commission on Aging with Raelene. I am a community Commission on Aging member. So I wasn't appointed by a board of supervisor or a city. I basically applied as an opening due to my own interest in aging issues, as my husband and I struggled with taking care of both sets of parents. But what I'm going to talk to you about is the Commission on Aging Housing Committee. We have 3 members that are full-time on the Housing Committee. Jim Wassner is our chair. Raelene and I are the other 2 members. And we also have guest speakers that work with us on different topics to get more information. But basically what the COA Housing Committee is focused on is advocating for age-friendly housing and communities within El Dorado County. And we are actually focusing on affordable and quote unquote the missing middle housing, missing middle in the way of looking at missing middle from an income perspective, along with the form and the factor of the housing options that would be available in missing middle. So as we see projects that come on the docket through the Planning Commission, Jim Wassner, our chair, sends out an approved letter that the commission has approved that tells the Planning Commission what we envision as far as age-friendly housing, not just the housing itself, but also the land use and potentially the surrounding neighborhood. And he basically sends it out. He gets tagged when different projects and proposals come up to the Planning Commission, and he reads through them and he sees something that looks, oh, this could be potentially something could provide an opportunity here for affordable housing. And again, we're saying age-friendly because what is friendly for a senior as far as walkability and ease of use is also friendly for a mom with her children in a stroller or tricycle or whatever. So we're not saying age restricted, we're saying age friendly is what we're focusing on. Let's see what else I have. Basically, come see us afterwards, talk to us about age-friendly housing and communities and stuff like that. We're also trying to explore within living within our communities longer, a concept which is basically volunteerism within your own community, and it's called kind of the village concept. And basically, it's just volunteering amongst your neighbors to help out with different chores or activities, and it's a way of just getting to know your neighbors better. It takes no infrastructure. It's basically based on a volunteerism concept, and we're going to explore that with Yvette, who's Health and Human Services, and other people, and we're obviously going to do listening as to what do people see as a positive in trying to pursue the village concept within their own community. The other thing that Raelene and I are involved with is the California Senior Legislature. These brochures are at that back table. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the California Senior Legislature, but basically what I'm going to tell you about is what Raelene wrote in the El Dorado Hills CSD quarterly brochure, which is also not just a magazine, but it's also online. So the California Senior Legislature, we're basically a volunteer body. 40 senior senators, 80 senior assembly members, and we're basically elected via the Commission on Aging within our county or our area agency. And our mission is to gather ideas about issues impacting seniors for legislative proposals at the state and federal levels. The proposals are then prioritized by the CSL at our annual meeting in October. And we basically go through a vetting process of what's been proposed by the senior legislature, and we come up with our top 10 list. And it literally is a ranking of all the proposals and voting by the entire senior legislature as to what we think is our top 10 list. Then we take that top 10 list, and during the months of November, December, January, we try and find folks within the regular legislature to champion this proposal, because we need them to author the bill to be able to bring it into the Senate and the Assembly floor. And if one of our proposals is adopted by one of the regular legislature, then we help advocate for that proposal, whether it's testimony, providing additional background, but we as a body and also the person that actually proposed it within the senior legislature will work alongside our senator or assembly member person to see if we can get that bill all the way through the various committees to the governor's desk. Now, in the year of tight budgets and deficits, basically if it has dollars attached to it, good luck. it's probably not going to get very far. But sometimes bills, we will continue to promote over a 2-year time frame. So we don't give up. We don't give up. And we can also resubmit at a later point. Maybe there was just some initial language that wasn't quite acceptable. We will continue to pursue it. So we don't give up easily. And since the inception of the California Senior Legislature, we are a nonpartisan body, and we are also volunteers, all volunteers. Over 200 pieces of legislation have been signed by the governor in our state. And so Raelene and I have been thinking of ideas, working alongside other senior legislators from adjacent counties like Stanislaus, but also give us your ideas. Who knows? We might be able to take it somewhere. So with that in mind, I want to put out a plug for volunteering. Join us. Come become a commissioner on the Commission on Aging, or become a special advocate where you can just have a special topic that you want brought to the forefront, like transportation or recreation. Join us. You can be our special advocate to advocate for what is important as we age well. And again, you can join a lot of the different programs like Raelene mentioned. For example, there are a lot of people that work with senior nutrition, whether they're volunteering at the congregate site or whether they're driving meals to different people throughout the county. I did a ride along last year with a driver that he doesn't volunteer 1 day a week. He volunteers 3 days a week. It's incredible. And he drops off meals, and everybody that he dropped a meal off knew him by first name. He chit-chatted with them. It was an amazing point of contact that he gave to the community, along with bringing the meals. So anyway, I encourage you, volunteer with us.
Okay, so with that, we'll open up for questions. Are you ready? Any questions or comments? Anyone on the leadership team? Do you have something, Dave or John Davey?
Thank you both for being here tonight. It's always a good reminder because, if you've been to our meetings before, obviously you've had opportunities to speak to us, but it's good to be up and current. And I would say that the focus on, as we develop in our communities with residents, is about how we facilitate sort of that part that we don't ever think about, right? And you don't know until you're challenged with maybe you need a walker in your house for a family member, a wheelchair, just how inadequate our houses really are in terms of how restrooms are laid out, walkways, pathways. So it's a pretty important conversation. So if there's anything that you observe as you're going through looking at those planning commission items, I think we probably can find some time at APAC to hear from you about that as well. So I look forward to that.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Piggyback on that, safety bars for seniors as you get up to be able to support yourself in around the shower, around the bathroom. And there is a service provided through the Commission on Aging to do that. So all of those services are an advisory. It doesn't have to be something they come and install for you, but I actually made use of for my mother to call and say, what would you recommend is the best product to put in here from the standpoint of an installation that has to be made around a toilet? And they gave me their advice, and I went and followed it, and ended up doing the installation myself and stuff. But it was much easier, since she's not living locally, to figure out what the right equipment was and with the recommendations we had, and you just get the installation done. And that's been a big help, because the last thing you want is for a senior to take a fall because they weren't able to grab something strong enough to support their weight. Sometimes when they grab something, whatever it is they're grabbing will pull, like a towel bar or something, will pull off the wall, which is why you need those safety bars. So I think that's something we all learn as we experience being around seniors who are aging and what the safety provisions are. So thanks for your comments.
Thank you. And we would be more than happy to get together with you, chat about what we can do to collaborate on this to get it done.
And I think the program you guys have is called Safety.
Safety.
With a D, right? So I want to make sure we gave them credit.
That is a nonprofit.
Right.
And the gentleman who does this has been in the county for a long time and worked in these areas, so he's very good at what he does. So, yeah.
Other questions or comments?
I was going to say, the only problem with that is you have to fall within a certain income to get those bars. Because I know, I applied for those bars myself. One of the things I'd like to mention, you talked about having a village. We do not have sufficient transportation for seniors
Exactly.
in this community. And I would hope that the Commission on Aging would work to get some kind of transportation here, specifically that would stop. I mean, look, we have Heritage 1, Heritage 2, Heritage 3, you got Four Seasons, you have the senior building over here, you have Oakmont over here. We're loaded with seniors, and they all depend upon their own transportation or the facilities transportation. So we really need more bus transportation. Dial-a-ride, to me, doesn't work. I'm not gonna, I can't call up my doc, I can't call up and say I need a ride. I have to have an appointment with my doctor ahead of time, and I don't even know when you're gonna pick me up after I finish at the doctor's office. So you need transportation, which we do not have here. Okay.
Our El Dorado County Transit Authority is responsible for that, and they have run bus routes locally, and they weren't widely used. So what I'm saying, the dial-a-ride has gotten a whole lot better. There are services there, and maybe we should have them come and make a presentation just focused on senior outreach and what they're trying to do. But the residents of El Dorado Hills have not largely accepted the programs that have been implemented in other parts of the county. We've tried several times. Free rides for kids out of high school during the summer months. It didn't get highly utilized, so independence, whatever, but.
And I think that's very, very true, John, what you were saying. We hear this and we're aware of it. And I know there was just a recent, probably 6 months, transportation was working on it. And we didn't get the voice of El Dorado Hills heard because there wasn't anybody participating in it. So.
Add to that, right now, the El Dorado Transportation District has a survey online, and it is good through June 17th, and it asks you to prioritize what types of transportation are needed by zip code. And so I know it's out on social media, but that's a great way, and one of the options is microtransit, so like an Uber for seniors. And if that's an option, I think, you know, the more voices as part of that
Right, and
process
we need the voices.
helps them do that. So maybe that's something we could send out in the minutes.
That's what we
as to-
had.
So-
Yeah,
But-
so it's been on social media.
But maybe we can put it in the minutes here and so folks can
Yeah,
continue.
that's a good idea.
But
Yeah,
we
can
need
do that.
to.
Yeah.
You know, years ago, 5 years ago, we actually had taxi cab companies here in El Dorado Hills that would take you anywhere in El Dorado Hills. I don't know what it was, for $10.
Right.
Okay. And as you said, nobody used it.
Nobody used it.
Okay. Then we had a bus. I finally talked to the Department of Transportation to run a bus. And the bus went down Carson's, went down White Rock, and it went to Town Center. Nobody took the bus.
And
One of the reasons was the folks in Four Seasons didn't want to have a bus come in because they didn't know who was coming into their gated community. But that should be something that should be worked on. You know, nobody in the community is going to walk 1.5 miles to get on a bus.
You're right,
Okay,
that's not gonna
so
happen.
that was the big.
I think sharing the survey to people to get a response is really the best way
I
to
think
get the
so.
voices of El Dorado Hills
Yeah.
heard.
Put
But
it out
people
in
have
any
to
way.
take the time to fill out the survey. So anyway, okay.
So
I think
anyway.
enough on that one.
Yep.
Are there any other?
We know.
Can I?
I see that. I'm sticking people in the room first, so
Oh, okay.
Kathy, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you. I love the idea of the village concept. You know, little kids and big kids go together
Right.
in a lot of different ways, not only in intergenerational care, but when we look at our numbers at the community hubs, I was going to report later, one of the trends I'm starting to see is a lot of isolation. And the isolation is not only with families who have little kids, it's the seniors too as well. And I love the idea of the village concept and
Right.
blending the two together. So I'm interested in wherever you're going and keep me in the loop.
Okay, great, because it's working really well up in Portland.
Actually, in the Northwest communities, they do a lot of work around the village concept, and I think it's a great idea, also to build empathy and community. I
Yep,
think
it's
those are really
fabulous
great
what
things.
they've done.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build some
Anyone else in the
momentum.
conference room before we go to the Zoom?
I would like to add something. You have local schools here, Holy Trinity School, St. John's and Folsom. They send the entire school all year long to the different facilities here in El Dorado County to do artwork, to sing with these people. So if you wanted to engage with them, okay, that would be, you know, a great, great thing.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a great
Yep,
idea.
Get with
Thanks.
Raelene and Tita, and we'll make it
Yeah,
happen.
that'd be Perfect.
Bria.
I
And then we'll go
just
to Bill.
wanted to, add, in my experience, my very recent experience, that Uber is very reliable in this area. You call them, they show up. And you know when they're going to show up, you know how much they're going to cost. And they take you to where you need to go. And I think that just not that long ago, it felt like we were out in the sticks and that, you know, nobody was an Uber driver. But very recently, I've had a lot of success. So that is an option.
Great,
now.
thank you.
Good to
Thank
know.
you.
Yes. Bill, yeah.
Hi.
Hi there again.
I just want to, well, I want to say a couple of things here, all very congratulatory to both of you ladies for this fine presentation here tonight. You may or may not know that we have representation here from Four Seasons, John Rasslier, myself, also Bob Williams from Heritage. So we're familiar with old folks. Okay. All right. My question to you both, because you mentioned El Dorado County Commission on Aging, and what that indicates to me is that other counties have commissions on aging. And if that is correct, and I'm assuming by your bobbing heads
Yes,
that,
it's true.
that is true. So is there coordination between those commissions in any way that is viable for your success?
So actually, on the Volunteer Commission on Aging, which we're part of, we have a oversight, well, not oversight, but a commission-sponsored organization. And what it is every Commission on Aging can assign a person to it's called TAC. And we meet quarterly, and basically it's to share best practices. So we share best practices along with getting speakers from throughout the state on various topics, whether it's on the master plan on aging, long-term services on support, what's happening with the disability community, transportation issues, but that is the best practices. And then, of course, there is the overall California Commission on Aging. And they are the state body that does advocacy on senior services. So right now, their biggest thing is they commented on the proposed governor's budget revise due to the deficit. So they sent a letter out basically protesting where the cuts were coming and how they would affect seniors. But basically, there's two very active bodies that we can share ideas and also spread advocacy throughout the state.
And I would also just add to that, that all of these programs that we have here are federally mandated programs. So every county, every state has these programs in some form or another. They're all administered differently, but they are available. So if you know somebody in Texas, you can tell them, go see the legal.
We actually have a guide at our back table. If you have friends or family that are say in SoCal, say San Diego or LA, Ventura County, whatever, we have their number. If your friend needs to contact somebody within their own county, we have a listing of that county's number for them to get services from.
Thank you very much. Very good. Anyone else in the conference room? All right, then we're going to go online. Fire Chief Mo Johnson.
All right, how about now? Can you hear me
There
now?
you go. You got it. Thank you, Chief. Yep, go ahead.
Outstanding. Good evening, Mo Johnson, Fire Chief, El Dorado Hills Fire Department. I just want to say what a great presentation, and by all means, please remember El Dorado Hills Fire Department, should you have additional conversations, because we're always looking for ways to provide additional services or how we can modify services to help with our aging population as well. So I just want to say congratulations, really good job, and let us know if there's anything that we can do.
Oh, well, I'd like to say, I'd like to meet with you.
That can be
No
arranged.
problem.
Yes.
Yes.
That we can work on. Absolutely, you could be a great help to us.
Absolutely. Anytime.
So I don't know how we do that, but.
Well, we'll get you connected. We have the chief's contact information. and
Okay.
We'll share
Yes,
that with you.
perfect.
Because I see great things ahead.
Yep, absolutely. All right, thank you
Thank
for the
you.
comment, chief. Anyone
got
else? Any go backs? Again, thank you, Raelene and Tita, for the great presentation. We learned a lot, so keep up the good work. All right, so with that, we'll move into supervisor communications. I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. There's nothing new on Costco that we can share with the public, but you are going to hear later on when I comment about projects coming through planning that Costco is still alive and there are things happening, but it's just that we can't share the information as of yet. So next one, Town and Country Village, the development of that, they're still working on the EIR, so nothing new there. AKT Community for Health and Independence, we had the J6 review. Formal application is anticipated, but hasn't been submitted yet to my knowledge. So that one's still out there waiting for a formal application process. And then Generations at Green Valley Road, they've started their draft EIR, and that's expected to be complete in the fall of this year. And then in the business park, which is District 2, I'm gonna turn it over to George after I make this comment. The Gateway Project fact sheet is available through the planning website, so that has a lot of information for people who don't understand what's being proposed for the new warehouse structures that are down there and the amount of traffic that might go with it. But additional discussions with the project proponent, Pac Trust, has occurred recently. Both George and I sat in on the conversation. That's to be expanded. So there's more going on there, and there is a willingness from the developer to try to figure out what is the best mix of housing and warehouse space, commercial space, whatever it may be, because there's a number of different proposals that would best fit the needs of the community and then still provide what I think is a necessary affordable housing portion that was called workforce housing. And where else to put the workforce housing but within the workplace? And the the business park seems to be the proper place. Town center would also be a place, but all of town center is full. But we could have it adjacent to it or nearby, and then people could take a short commute to get to work. But one of the things I think we've recognized is workforce housing is needed within the confines of where we do a lot of the work in El Dorado Hills and El Dorado County. So the business park would be part of it. So with that, George, you want to add anything to that?
Basically, Scott is very open-minded. In fact, he wants to hear.
George, I think you need to make your mic go green so that they can hear us.
Scott is very open-minded, and he wants to kind of meet with the community and what their interests are and what they would propose that would be the right thing for that project. So just want to let you know.
Okay, so
can I comment on that? Sure. As the representative for the people in District 2 that'll be really affected by this Gateway project, I think that we're losing the focus. The focus is not on housing for workforce. The focus is what's going to happen to that piece of land where the developer wants to build 4 huge warehouses with something like 25 plus loading docks with traffic that will go in and out, okay? And I think everything that's done has to focus on that first, because if you don't, it's almost like saying, my house is on fire, and then my wife says, John, should we plant peas tomorrow? You have to focus on those buildings, because if those buildings go up and they're used as they are proposed to be used, it's going to totally destroy the communities of Heritage and Four Seasons and Blackstone.
I'm not sure which warehouses you're referring to.
You have
tilt-up warehouses are going
all
up
right.
as we speak.
You have the two
and they
that
were approved, so-
you have the two that apparently we cannot do anything about because they're ministerial.
Right.
Okay. Right next to it, you have plans for 4 more. Okay. And I believe that our focus is being taken away from that piece of land and those 4 warehouses with the promise or the idea of having workforce housing, okay? I think we have to focus on the 4 warehouses that are being proposed and possibly something else done. And if nothing is done, and if those 4 warehouses plus the other 2 are put into operation, you can say goodbye to our neighborhood and our environment No, I know.
There's a lot of things
You
in
know what I mean?
discussion that
So
you're
I
not
mean,
aware of, that
that's
we've done.
that's my take on this.
Okay.
We cannot lose the focus on the addition of 4 more buildings. This developer is known, and this is his business, to build large warehouses that are large distribution centers. Okay? And I'll leave it at that. Forget about the workforce housing.
I can't forget
Take
about it.
care
We
of,
need it.
take care of this, I'm gonna call it, the elephant in the room. This is the big thing, okay? Everything else is a sideshow on this. Thank you, John.
Any comments, John? 'Cause there's a lot of discussions going on with various things. I didn't want to get into a lot of detail because it's still all very conceptual. But there's a lot of workarounds and things being discussed.
Well, the meeting that I was at, we were kind of moved into this idea of, well, maybe we'll build resident housing, maybe we'll build some kind of a park. And I think we cannot lose the focus on what is going to be done with these 4 additional buildings. Okay? Handle that first and then talk about anything else later on.
Yeah, and so those 4 buildings are subject to part of the, they want to do a parcel split,
Right.
So that will have some element of review that the 2 buildings that were ministerially approved, they'll have a little more review than perhaps those did, in terms of they have to grant the parcel split.
Right, because it
Yeah.
requires a parcel split.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, the other thing that I struggle with too is that I know a lot of residents, are upset, and not just south of 50, but everywhere about the specifics on that project. During the beginning of COVID, they had a project there. They had proposed high density with some mixed use Tractor Supply primarily, and a lot of apartments. I think they're talking like 800 units, 600 units, something like that.
Yeah.
And people were out of their minds that they were going to do that.
95 to be exact.
Good number. So, but people are on their minds that they were going to do that. Then now they were approaching it as, well, it's zoned for R&D, and, the tilt-up warehouses are very common R&D uses. They are larger than what we've seen in the past, but there are larger buildings in the business park, and people are upset about that. So they own the property, they're going to do something. So I'm glad that John was there as part of the conversation. And I know that more community members south of 50 were there, and I think that they want to remain pretty engaged. We did have the meeting with planning with DOT. It's a quarterly catch up for the District 2 type of activities where they've done this outreach now, where they're talking with the residents, and 2 of our standing committee members were there. So they're engaged in terms of the conversation. So we're hoping it's not something that's going to sneak up on us, right? Like you're describing that it could just happen, but we're hoping, right, that we're kind of that communication still going, and we'll be aware of what's going on. But
There
Rob,
has to be a parcel split. That's got to be a
Yeah.
formal process. It's got to go to
Yeah.
the planning commission. So
yeah,
there will
so,
be public hearings on all
Yeah.
this.
Exactly.
yeah, but,
So it isn't
and
just
then-
going to happen overnight.
yeah, and so, but my point is that regardless of whatever's proposed, it seems to be very contentious no matter what it is. So what is the community you want? It's not going to be empty. It's property, it's worth money, it's in something that's zoned, for an RDU. So the matter is, as long as Scott's open to having that, the developers open to having those conversations, let's have the conversations and see where we can get to. But, yeah, we have to stay focused on it, right? And make sure that, we're heard, and that, we are hearing what, the applicant's proposing too. Raphael will be here from the, Department of Transportation. We have a transportation only meeting for APAC in July. So it's to be another good opportunity to have his thoughts, and he's a little more aware of that project now. And we'll seek some feedback from Raphael on that, in July.
I think the biggest thing is reach out to Scott and have him do a presentation here and talk about what the best interest for the community in Dorado Hills.
That's probably better done in APAC.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
So if you get it scheduled.
Yeah.
And Scott was here, I want to say last August, to talk about sort of the beginning. We talked about sort of the retail aspect of the Gateway El Dorado, and then the 2 buildings primarily. We talked about those. We really didn't talk about the parcel split. So when we have him here, he'll come and talk. So we're going to make sure that it's appropriate time to talk about it too. And
Do you know when the parcel split is coming before the planning commission? I don't get updated on it.
No, I haven't seen it.
John, it
Not at
has
all.
not been scheduled.
Pardon?
It has not been scheduled.
Okay, so it's pending. Okay.
Well, it's not even pending. The issue here is basically a disconnect as far as I'm concerned as a commissioner, between what has been submitted officially and what is publicly available and what has been discussed in a series of side meetings that I've attended, you've attended, that are not being reflected at all. And that's just adding to the consternation of the people in terms of what is really going on. And that's also, obviously complicated by the fact that you still have out there the declaration, the termination letter that Karen Gardner wrote about R&D zoning. Now that hasn't got brought to closure, as you know, because there is an agreement made between the county and Wynn Properties. We can't talk about that any further on that, but that's really brought to a close our ability to really address, are there issues regarding R&D zoning that should be applied to this situation? And I think, again, it's a process, John, it's just honesty that I'm trying to bring forward.
The biggest part of the problem, the matrix got to be changed. The zoning matrix has to be changed. And I asked her to do that over a year ago when we had this Project Frontier. And she said he was going to do it, and it still hasn't been done yet, so.
I think that's coming to us late.
I hope so.
Part of the general plan update that we're supposed to hear, but as the ZOU goes with it, zoning ordinance.
John, can I add two more things that wasn't on your list that I think is critical? I know that APAC is very concentrated on both these, and that's the
Is he
Marble
gonna report
Valley.
on them when we go to the agenda?
Probably will. If I don't,
Let's don't be redundant.
if I don't report on it, make sure I do report on it.
Okay, well, no, I was commenting as a commissioner, but I can wait, that's for sure.
But
If you
it's
prefer.
items on the APAC agenda, we can cover it then. That's probably more appropriate, but if they're not on the agenda.
Well, I was just adding to your list of ongoing projects.
Okay.
Yeah, so we always
Just
have
to bring the
ongoing
public up to
projects, so,
speed.
yeah.
Okay,
So
so,
I'll
all
wait.
right, so we'll get to that when we go to the APAC discussion. So thank you, Bob, for that. Okay. So is there any other comment in the room on this particular item before we go to the Zoom participants? Okay. So David,
Yes, sir. So I'd be more than willing to volunteer and assist the neighborhood and this committee as well as planning commissioners on the R&D zoning, which is a very specific and heavy zoning used for research and development, obviously, and hospitals that have a lot of hazardous waste. Warehouse distribution does not belong, nor does logistics belong in an R&D zone. And those two should be kept separate. So anything I can do to assist or volunteer on that, I'd be more than willing to do, Supervisor.
okay, and we need to send you the specific agreement that was made on the El Dorado Hills Business Park back in 1980? 85?
85.
We're talking about antiquity in terms of the agreement that was made and the allowed uses. But I need to send you that. Make sure you get a hold of it, David, so you can review it to understand some of the history of this.
I remember working with Sammy Simo, and my wife worked with Sammy Simo in
Okay,
Lincoln.
so maybe you do know all
Yeah,
that. So,
we're,
okay.
we're familiar with that.
All right. So I welcome your participation. That'd be great. So,
Thank you.
all right. Not seeing anything else on this. I want to go to the grand jury reports if we're ready for that. So there's 4 new grand jury reports that are out because we're trying to keep the public informed of how they can access it. So there's a link in the agenda that'll take you right to the page. Case 24-06 is a voter initiative petitions. The subphrase is the people need to be heard. And that involves the El Dorado Hills Community Services District and LLADs and other things. So if you're interested in those, you should definitely read that particular case study. 2407 was written on the County Office of Education. And the subphrase was, are schools doing enough to address sexual harassment? So if you're interested in that, you want to make sure you read that particular study. 2408, Emergency Services Authority, who provides oversight. That involves El Dorado County and their services. So be particular interested. If you have a particular interest in that, please access it and read it for your information. And then lastly, case 2409, which is the latest released grand jury and it's their final report to be released. They released them as a sequence. Has to do with the 2023. Let's see, we didn't identify what this one is from the subphrase, so we need to pull that into here. So I'm trying to remember what 2409, what the subphrase was. I'll have to pull it up and tell you what it is, because off the top of my head, I can't remember what 2409 was. Election integrity, thank you. Election integrity, separating what? Okay, so we didn't get that in here, but election integrity, and I know everybody has an interest in election integrity, right? So again, that would be a good one to go read and understand on your own. There will be responses to all of these, and they will be, the responses by the various agencies involved will be put out on the grand jury's website. So you're willing to you should be accessing those to get the responses in a later point in time. And the last thing here, we just wanted to note that the final grand jury report, which is the compendium of all of these, will be released in July of this year. So soon to be released, but there's a lot of good information in all those grand jury reports. And from my perspective, there's some misinterpretations as well, which I'm sure you'll see in some of the responses for clarification in terms of what exists that may not have been found by the grand jury in terms of documentation, policies, et cetera. So it's kind of a back and forth, but at the end of the day, when all the responses are in, the public should be determining, was this an adequate response or not? Because the grand jury can always go back and revisit these things, i.e. the successor grand jury can open up something and then follow up and ask specific questions. Bill and George are probably the two most knowledgeable of the grand jury processes, because both of them have served on the grand jury. But I don't want to belabor that either, but get involved. And if you have questions on them, certainly raise them to the appropriate parties. And I guess, does the grand jury website allow questions to be raised individually? I'm not sure if it does or not.
No, you can't.
Okay, so it would have to be a public discussion, I guess, so.
And the biggest thing is I encourage everybody to take at least a volunteer, at least one term to be on the grand jury. It'll open your eyes, let me tell you. It did me, and I'm sure it's done you too, so.
Seven times.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting when you really start
You'd be
digging
surprised.
to find, right? So, all right, so with that, are there any questions on the grand jury cases? Yes. And do you have a microphone close to you? Thank you.
The question that I have is that once the grand jury gives out a report,
Yep.
makes recommendations, who is responsible to make sure that those recommendations and those changes have been made and that they're not just doing the same thing?
So within the grand jury report, they will assign certain organizations, and maybe more than one, to respond to particular findings. So it's listed from the standpoint of a set of findings, first of all, in the grand jury report, and then recommendations. And they may recommend that the sheriff's office and the El Dorado County supervisors respond to a given thing. Elections office, pick a category, right? So sometimes there's more than one agency that's asked to respond, but that's where you'll find that the intent is to have each of those, in fact, each of those agencies has to respond or they're found in non-compliant by the Superior Court judge. So you will find responses also on this website wherein the agency will come back, because we've already done that for a couple of the county questions that came up, grand jury findings. So the responses are already out, I think, for the first 2 or 3 of the grand jury reports. I haven't seen any for the latest 4 here, but they should be out there fairly quickly, because I think they're given 30 days, if I remember right, to make the initial response, and then there may
30
be
days.
follow-up questions. And so it happens in a pretty short sequence of time. But if you go to that website, you'll find not only the findings from the grand jury, but where the responses are available, they'll be available as well. So hopefully that answers the question. So.
And there are forms on the grand jury website to file a.
File a complaint.
To look at.
Okay, so it's for the next year's grand jury. If you have something that's concerning to you, you can file a complaint, and then they'll review the complaints, as I understand the process is. They go through and select the ones that they want to spend time on based upon the number of complaints they've given and what they feel to be the severity. If there's issues there, what could the outcome be from the standpoint of negative effects on the residents, on the agencies, on the safety of prisoners, whatever it may be, right? So, because we've had some done on the jails, and that was the focus there, but those are in the past.
One of the things is on the grand jury, there's a civil grand jury and there's a criminal grand jury. So just remember there's two different separate ones.
So, okay, so with that, seeing no more questions on the grand jury, there's a couple things I wanted to add for information. Our Department of Transportation has just released the 2024 County Roadway Pavement Condition Index numbers. PCI is a reference to that. This were data that was collected as of January 18th of this year. And what they do is they rate on a scale of 0 to 100 what the pavement condition is for every street that is county maintained. So if you live in El Dorado Hills, the information is available. It's supposed to be on DOT's website as well, but I have a list here. If you live on a particular roadway in a given section, I can tell you what your PCI number is. The other thing I've asked the county DOT to do in the past is to give me a listing that's determined by worst areas, best areas to worst areas. So you can look and determine, all right, knowing where the issues have been reported on a given street that has a PCI, what are the worst PCIs? And I'll just tell you that a PCI between a score of 25 to 49 is considered poor, and 0 to 24 is considered failed. All right, so within El Dorado Hills, we have 4 different areas that are below a 24. So those are failed roads, and they occur on Shadowfax Lane, Lake Crest Drive, Francisco Drive, a small segment, and Palomino Court. So those are the way the DOT determines where is it we need to apply the next set of resources to really get those streets corrected, and then they move up the ladder up, basically from the lowest scores to the highest scores. So shortly after that, 34 here, Miriam Court, Timberline Ridge, Richardson Circle, Canyon Oak Court, Village Center Drive, Appaloosa Court. It goes on and on and on in terms of every county roadway and where we are. The bottom line is there isn't enough money to fix all the roads at once. They should have been fixed, but it's up to the state of California through gas taxes to make sure the roadways are maintained for all the counties. That doesn't occur in El Dorado County for whatever reason, but so the El Dorado County Board of Supervisors has supplemented road maintenance through the road fund by taking general fund monies and putting it over where it's needed to be able to service the roads and upgrade them. So if you do have questions, I have the printouts here. We can take those later. But if you have general questions, we can take them now. So yeah, go ahead.
So the streets that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And so forth, that's just based on people calling in complaints. It's
No.
not from some.
This is a biannual survey where they go out every 2 years and they look at and inspect, they take photographs of the roads, and there's comparator charts that tell you a certain amount of alligatoring with potholes is a PCI of 32, right?
Yeah.
So it's a graduated scale, but they use a comparative analysis type of thing to tell you this is the road condition. Generally, it's pretty accurate. If you compare one roadway to another roadway, it's pretty accurate. People will tend to think my road is all alligated up. It's horrible. It must be at a failing condition. Well, it turns out it's not. It's in a poor condition or even in a middle level condition. So interpretation of what is really a failing roadway has to be done by the experts with these techniques. Because I get calls from people who want their roads resurfaced, that sort of thing, and I go in and look at the PCI, and they got a PCI of 60. And all I can tell them is it's going to be a while because there's a long list of roads that are far worse than yours. So unfortunately, that's the circumstance we're faced with. But, so anyway, if that information is available, it should be on DOT's website, but we'd be happy to share with you. In fact, we'll put links to this in our minutes. We'll just add the links to the 2 PCIs that I've received. One is just by street name. So if you live on a given street, it's easy to look up. And the other is by numerical scoring, the highest score to the worst, because that's what I typically look at is where do we need to make sure the roads at the worst end of it are getting fixed. So, all right, so with that, did you have another question on the PCIs? Okay, Bill?
Just a clarification for me, what does PCI stand for?
Pavement Condition Index.
Never heard that before.
Okay, so we've talked about it in these meetings
All
before.
these acronyms.
But it's the way organizations that are looking at roadway conditions. How bad is it? Use a numerical scale, and it's based upon a comparative type analysis of things. So you can see photographs of some of these in terms of what constitutes a PCI of 50, right? What constitutes a PCI of 40? So there are comparators they can use, but and there is some judgment used.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not you don't take a meter and go measure something, It's based upon an observation where you go out and look at the general condition of a given segment of road, and it's done by segments. It's not the whole road. So if you live on a fairly long road, such as Green Valley Road, there's probably 8 or 9 segments on Green Valley Road that they do PCIs for. So you really have to make sure you have the segment of the road that's appropriate. In a subdivision, it's pretty simple, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the things, you can also go on DOT website and they'll give you a list of the projects that's going on this summer.
Yep. Okay, and I'm not seeing any other comments on PCIs. So the other thing I wanted to share with you, since we've had any number of discussions about CEQA and how do you determine what's required and what's not required. This was a memo that just came out at the end of last month from Karen Gardner, and I want to read it to you. And again, we'll include this in the minutes. The purpose of this memo is to outline upcoming activities regarding several large-scale projects moving through planning's administrative process that are reasonably expected to be in front of the Board of Supervisors prior to the end of this calendar year. The following is an overview of some of the efforts that the Planning Division is working towards to accommodate this expected workload. Upcoming large-scale projects: 1 commercial project, Costco, and several residential, Generations and Cameron Meadows, and mixed-use projects are currently nearing the end of the planning review, including 4 specific plans or specific plan revisions: the Village of Marble Valley, Lime Rock Village, Creekside Village, and Town and Country. Each of these projects is being analyzed with an accompanying environmental impact report, a full EIR, to meet requirements for the California Environmental Quality Act. Many of these EIRs will be released for public review through the summer of 2024. So we got like 3 months. All those EIRs are expected to be released. And then we anticipate that many of these projects have converging review completion dates set for the end of this summer and early fall. CEQA training. The Planning Commission will likely review most of these projects, proposals, and associated EIRs to advise the board by the fall of 2024. So by the fall of this year, they're expecting all of those projects to come before the Planning Commission. CEQA documentation is made up of technical reports required to assess whether each project may present significant and unavoidable impacts. If so, then it is determined whether and what kind of mitigations may be necessary. When impacts may not be avoidable, then a statement of overriding considerations must explain specific reasons why the social, economic, legal, technical, or other beneficial aspects of the proposed project outweigh the unavoidable adverse environmental impacts and why the lead agency is willing to accept such impacts. Overriding considerations may be contemplated by the Board of Supervisors for decision through the Planning Commission, but the Planning Commission is the first hearing body of these discussions and recommendations. So, given the volume and breadth of EIR documentation, which is typically hundreds of pages, as we well know, and thousands include, right? The Planning Division has tentatively arranged for CEQA review training for the Planning Commission in late June. So I hope you're aware of that, Robert. 23rd. Okay. All right. So first of all, they're going to train the Planning Commission to make sure all of their questions are answered relative to the CEQA process. Pat Angel from Asset Environmental has provided a similar presentation to the Planning Commission in the past and planning staff in the past. And so CEQA training presentation is largely prepared for sharing in June. However, there will be emphasis on reviewing EIRs. The CEQA training presentation would be recorded and available to the county website for the public and decision makers to view into the future. So everything that's recorded in that training session that goes on with the Planning Commission will be available to the public to listen to review, to try to understand to the best of our abilities, right, what CEQA is really all about and what's prevailing case studies in CEQA if those questions are asked. And I'm hoping the Planning Commission asks some of those questions. And then there's informational workshops and other things, but that's the primary information I wanted to provide, is that planning is not ignoring these major projects. They are addressing them. The Planning Commission will be trained and they have an opportunity to ask questions about CEQA before the new projects. And these are large new projects that are coming in. And that from that, they'll also gain knowledge and information on any project. If it's a proposed rezoning project, you're going to find out what the CEQA requirements are then. So a lot of the questions I expect that have been asked about things like the business park and the length of time it's gone on since CEQA was passed down there, what is really required by state law and what isn't. I'm hoping those are all answered. And if they're not, then we need to get them answered, because that's one of the biggest, I think, issues, questions, interpretations a lot of us have is, when do you have to go back and redo a CEQA element? We know you have to redo CEQA when the state law changes. When they change CEQA, you have to go back and refresh, which is why we've we've heard things like vehicle miles traveled and fire-related evacuations and those kinds of things are now part of CEQA as part of the review cycle. But to go back and say we have to revisit something, and I'm just going to pick cultural resources, when there's no new findings and nobody has new information, just because it's been a long time since we've looked at it, and the tribes are now more interested, I'm not sure that dictates the need to go back and redo something in that category. And you can pick any category of CEQA you want to determine where that falls, but that's kind of where we're going with it. So just to give you that information. The other thing I would like to do is acknowledge that our District 1 Planning Commissioner has been able to join us tonight. Brandon Reinhardt is in the back with his hat on. He had other family commitments tonight, so he had to make sure he took care of those before he was able to attend the meeting. But several people have said they haven't had a chance to meet Brandon, so he's here this evening if you'd like to introduce yourself, because he and Bob and a lot of others are going to have a lot of work ahead of them very near term with respect to project activity. So Brandon, you want to add anything? I know you guys have been hearing a lot of things like cell towers, so anything you'd like to add relative to that, please feel free to comment on it.
Is this a microphone or is it just for online?
That only goes for the online. It's only for Zoom, so you have to talk loud within the room. So.
Okay. Yeah, hi, nice to meet you all. Apologize, I don't get to these things more often. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, so evenings are rough. I had to wait till my wife got off work before I could show up. We both work full time, so evenings are tough. But yeah, we had last meeting. I don't know if you already gave this update, but we had the antenna down in the business park, and that one got approved. And then we have one coming up next week, and that's another antenna over off Malcolm Dixon. So I know I met with the group out there, and I know several other planning commissions went out and met with them a couple weeks back. So have a pretty good idea of what that one looks like. But yeah, as John mentioned, there's a lot of stuff coming probably in the fall, late summer. So it should be a little bit more interesting than antennas, but everything seems like it's a big deal, and we treat it as such. So yeah, I think that's it.
Very good, thank you. All right, with that, if there's no go backs on any of the stuff that was supervised, I'm going to rapidly move into leadership team progress reports. So we always let our safe and healthy communities groups report first. So I was looking see if there's anybody from the sheriff's office on. Jeremy Buckman, I know has had some conflicts, so hopefully we'll get him available in the future. CHP report, I don't see Andrew Brown anywhere, so I think, okay. You said he was on vacation?
It bounced back that he was off, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. And then we'll go to El Dorado Hills Fire. So Chief Mo, I guess you're representing the district tonight since I don't see Chief Lilly here.
I am. Chief Lilly's up at a class, so I've got the duty tonight. A couple updates for you. We've just recently put in a new rescue unit, technical rescue unit. So any type of rescue that you can imagine, this unit will be prepared for. And so all of our crews, they've got the requisite certificates and training. And so we're really excited about that. That unit started its life as a hazmat unit down in the city of Sacramento, and they recently donated that unit to us. So that was free of charge, and we're happy to have that unit here for its next life.
Great videotape, and we put the videotape out on our social media. So if you really want to see a nicely equipped unit and a really thorough explanation of what goes in a rescue unit, that was well done. So compliments, to the captain who put that together.
Outstanding. Thank you for that. We'll pass that on for sure. Cameron Park, as you know, there's a report that has been out, and so EDH Fire, we're simply reviewing that report, and should Cameron Park decide that they want to talk to EDH Fire about what that looks like to team up and build a stronger fire service here in the west end of the county, we're open to having those conversations, and so that's still moving forward. The training center has been extremely busy. We're hosting over 100 classes, and we're booked out through 2025. And so it's just been a tremendous asset for us down there. We recently signed an agreement with Folsom Lake College and American River College. That'll provide units for our firefighters, as well as some additional revenue that goes towards training. So we're extremely excited about that partnership with American River College and Folsom Lake College. Brian Leduc, Engineer Leduc, he he received the Firefighter of the Year award for both the Rotary and EDH Fire. He's one of our all-star employees, and he is very responsible for all of our new apparatus coming in, whether it's lettering, mounting equipment, fixing equipment, figuring it out. He is really at the tip of the spear there. So congratulations to him. And then finally, we did release a traumatic brain injury PSA, if you will, public service announcement. And so that video went out, is very well received. I was able to team up with Sheriff Lykoff and Commander Hatfield with CHP, and we jointly released that video. And so it's a very powerful message. The Benton family has been absolutely amazing. We sat down and talked the other day, and we'll be planning a very large event in May of next year, which will be kind of a community safety event, open house, and we'll talk about traumatic brain injury, because we've had several with varying results, including minor injuries all the way up to and include that. So it's going to be a really neat event with a kind of a bike rally, a little bit of a bike rodeo for the kiddos. There'll be lots of public safety equipment out there, and we're looking forward to that event in May of next year. With that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, any questions?
I just want to say, Mo, did you get my letter today?
I have not been an email for the last couple of hours, so if you send me an email,
Okay,
I'll
well, it
probably
should
get
have been
to it here.
submitted. You should have it. So anyway,
Oh, outstanding. Thank you so much
All
for
right,
that. We
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Tim, go ahead.
John, I'll just add that, the fire department started its vacant lot inspection a little bit earlier this year.
Yes.
There were over 1,400 vacant lots in our jurisdiction. Pretty much, all but 79 people cleared them, pretty quickly. Some use goats, some use manual labor, whatever. But we're down to 79, that we're getting a second notice, and we hope that the residents will clear those lots, it's not only for their own lots, but it's the neighboring lots, because if it starts on one lot that's not, it can spread to others. So it's been a very successful so far clearance program. No one protested about the notices they received at the special board meeting we had last week. And we are engaging requests for bids for those people who will not clear their lots. And there are always some people who don't want to do it. They want the fire department to get someone to do it for them and charge to their lien on their taxes. But that's decreasing every year. So I want to thank the community for responding to these letters and taking care of the community by clearing their grasses and shrubs as required.
Thank you for that, because that's a big part of fire safety, obviously, is getting rid of that vacant lot threat when you have a resident right next to it. The tougher part with vacancy is when it's a federal government or state government or a county that may not be doing their cleanup yet, because I know there was a report of the need to clean up the corner of Elrose Boulevard and Francisco, because it turns out, for whatever reason, DOT owns a segment of property in there. It's not owned by the homeowners association. And so the CSD is trying to get that cleaned up. And so I know the response back from the county was it may be a while because they have so many other things stacked up. So anyway, so we're trying to work through that, get that resolution as well. But, yep, very good. Thank you for that. And I think any other questions for for Chief Mo or Tim at all? Okay, then let's go on to our Healthy Communities report. Kathy?
Thank you. Well, I wanted to talk about the community hubs first, and I know you're not all going to see this, and I'm a nerd, so I just have to say that before I say it. So community hubs are your libraries that serve as resource centers, where we have navigators that can help connect you all with services. And we collect the registration forms on all the folks that come in. And this is the nerdy part of it. We now have a live dashboard now, so we can see all the data on folks that come in. And now I can report to you every month, and I know how to read it and do it. Last month I struggled. So I'm just saying, so I have a report for you on hubs today. So in the month of May, we had 39 clients come in that had 29 children among them. An idea of what they look like. We only had one that spoke another language this month. So and they didn't say which language that was, so I'm not clear. As far as how they get to the hub, 2/3 of them come in through the children programming at the library. 15% come in the 800 number that is done through the community hubs, and 15% comes through this food distribution that's done at the Hills Church. The needs that are popping up among them, only 1 out of 5 really had concrete needs. There's a lot of information that's given to most folks, but as far as concrete needs that were encountered in our community, 3 were in childcare, which we know is an issue, food, utilities, and clothing. So those are the kinds of issues that we're drilling down on. And again, this is 1 out of 5. It's not everyone who walks in the door. And as I was talking to our folks earlier, the one that I'm seeing to pop up in El Dorado Hills is really isolation. And we would, you know, it's surprising here that some of our younger and older folks are feeling like they don't have connection. And what I thought was interesting is of the folks that were there, 1 out of 4 of them reported not having interaction with other people at least 1 to 2 days a week. And 8% of them didn't have any communication outside of 1 time a week. That means they didn't talk to anyone else outside of their home. And so I think that's interesting. It's something to be aware of as a community, that there are folks that are isolated, even though we seem that we're bustling quite a bit. The other 2 reports that I wanted to talk about just briefly was that both of the commissions that I support, our Youth and Families Commission and our First 5 Commission, are going to start our community and needs assessment process. So we'll be looking at what the needs of youth and families are in El Dorado County, with a priority of looking at each one of our geographies. So El Dorado Hills will be looked at as Hub 1 as your supervisorial district as part of the report. And this fall, we'll look forward to bringing back what the conditions are for kids and youth in the communities. And then the last thing I wanted to report on is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which I might have talked about before. This is a new program that's in El Dorado County, and it is a match program with the state. This will provide 1 book. If you guys have not heard about this, pass it on. Anyone with a kid under the age of 5 will get 1 book delivered to their home every single month until they are 5 years of age. It is free. It is co-sponsored with Dolly Parton's library. We are up to, in the first 8 weeks of this project, we are covering nearly 25% of the population of kids under the age of 5. So we are gangbusters. This is a new foundation in the county, Marcella Foundation up in Tahoe. Actually, interesting side note, the founder of that foundation is a gentleman called Sean Fannin, and he is a graduate of Tahoe High School who went away and created a game that probably none of us have paid. And he sold it off, and he took all his money and brought it back to the community and started a foundation to give back. So it's super cool that Marcella Foundation has stepped up to be the lead. And it's neat to see our kids come back and give back. If you're at the county fair, look for Dolly Parton. She'll be standing there with a QR code. It's going to be like a Where's Waldo. You look for Dolly, and if you have little kids, you can sign them up. So we're looking forward to growing that program as far as we can. And that's about what I have this month.
Okay, very good. So maybe we'll go to Cindy now, because I'm sure the county fair dates are on the list,
There
right?
you go, coming up.
You know what, I didn't put the, I should have put
Oh,
the.
really?
county
Okay.
fair.
It's 13th or 17th.
13th or 16th.
I did El Dorado Hills Center, so.
Okay.
Anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on in the library this year. From June 1st, just started to July 1st, the El Dorado Library, they're going to have a summer photo challenge, and the contest is open to adults of all skill levels, from professionals to beginners. In honor of the summer reading challenge, that's the one for the kids. The theme for the photo challenge is Adventure Begins at Your Library. And you send a photo from an adventure, and you submit it to El Dorado Hills Library Contests at gmail.com. And 1 submission per person. So that's a new thing they're doing at the library. And they're also starting June 5th and through July 31st at the library. They're doing Art Wednesdays from 10 to 11:30. And that's for open to all ages. They have everything from leaf art to wind chimes to feather play to making sun catchers. So they have a lot of neat things that they're doing for art at the library. And then on the 6th, another thing at the library, they're doing a summer kickoff party from 10:30 to noon. They're going to have the party both inside and outside the library. They're going to have games and all kinds of playthings and more. And they're going to talk about their summer reading challenge. And they give special free gifts for all the kids that sign up. My kids did that from the second we moved here, and they loved it every year. So, and it gives them something extra to do during the summer. June 13th starts the Live on the Boulevard concert series. That's at the El Dorado Hills Town Center Amphitheater. That's every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. So they have a great roster of bands are bringing this this year. Also on June 13th, another thing at the library, they're doing a lot. It's called a Wild Things Animal Show. That's from 10 to 11 a.m. And they're bringing wildlife and just this group takes in the animals that were possibly injured, displaced, they're rehabbed, but then they bring them around and show them to the kids and teach them all about wild animals. So it seems like a really neat program, a new one that they're doing at the library I hadn't seen before. And then Raelene talked about senior events on June 14th at the Gilmore Senior Center. They're having a Hawaiian luau and Father's Day celebration. That's from 1 to 2 p.m. It's a free event, luau themed event with they'll have snacks and refreshments and entertainment. It is free, but you need to sign up because space is limited. Gosh, another June 14th again, the El Dorado Hills CSD, the summer concert series starts. That's that huge concerts they have over at the CSD area. That's from 7 to 9:30 p.m. There's concerts throughout the summer there. And on June 27th, again, the El Dorado Hills Library is doing a police canine demonstration. It's from 10:30 to 11:30. It's an educational demonstration by the sheriff, the El Dorado County Sheriff's Department. They bring the canine units out there. They'll have the officers out there and showing everybody how the demonstrations with the dogs and how they show how the dogs can help keep the community safe. And two more things. There's a lot going on this month. Another senior event. It's a 4th of July for seniors. It's on June 28th. It's a USCIA theme party for that time. Again, they'll have the snacks and refreshments and they have entertainment. And again, it's free, but you just need to call the senior center to reserve your spot. And then finally, July 3rd, the Fireworks and Freedom concert. That's a really nice, fun, super fun event over at the town center. It's from 6 to 11 p.m. at the town center amphitheater. The live music, food, drinks, and all kinds of vendors and fun out there. They have like whole kids zone for the kids, with the bounce houses and face painting and things. And then at the very end, the concert actually starts at 8, and then they'll have the big fireworks show. So there's a lot going on.
Okay, and again, on the county fair, it opens at noon on Thursday, June the 13th, and it closes Sunday at 10 p.m. on June the 16th. So you got a lot of opportunity to go to the fair. Hopefully the weather will be conducive, that it's not super hot during those days. We all know we're going to get a heat spell here, but hopefully it cools off a little bit because that does affect the attendance. But if you haven't been to our county fair in a long time, I would really encourage it. It's a great time to just go walking around and talk to people and visit the booths. And there's an awful lot of organizations that set nonprofits as well as county agencies and stuff. I do know that Pioneer Community Energy is going to be there again this year to talk about energy opportunities. And if you're interested in solar, there's some new offerings. So a lot of things going on at the county fair. So with that, let's move on to John with APAC.
Oh, that.
Oh, that.
Okay, so we're back here in this building, in this room, next Wednesday, the 12th. We start at 6:30 p.m. Technically, our sole focus of this meeting is a presentation from Serrano Associates on the Village of Marble Valley Specific Plan and the Lime Rock Valley Specific Plan. The day prior to that, on the 11th, I want to say it's at 5:30, Cameron Park CST, they're having an open house for the same project, and that's more of an informal walkthrough, look at exhibits type of event. This is about 4,700 pages of documents for Marble Valley, and I've already forgotten Lime Rock. The comment period for the Village of Marble Valley Specific Plan, the public comment period on the draft EIR ends on July 1st. So I know that I've been reading quite a bit, and I've been rereading quite a bit. I'm making notes, but until you get through the whole thing, it's hard to form like where your questions are going to be. So we have some people that want to volunteer. But we're still looking for anybody who wants to offer anything. But keep in mind, these public comments are about the environmental aspects of the draft environmental impact report. It's not about, I don't like that project or I love that project. It's the environmental. So it's very focused. Lime Rock Valley, it's a little smaller document, but my discussion with planning and with the applicant was that the projects are so intertwined because of their proximity and how they're proceeding how they desire to develop it, that they're doing both at once. So again, the public comment period for Marble Valley ends on July 1st. The public comment period for Lime Rock Valley ends on July 22nd. So we have those on there on our agenda as our major focus. We always hold a place for our transportation and our environmental standing committees to see if there's any updates. We won't expect any reports, but if there's something new that warrants a discussion. And as to what we've talked about tonight in terms of all these projects coming up, yeah, they're all coming up. I went to the event at the Mohana project, the El Dorado Town and Country Village, El Dorado. They were asking when they could get on the agenda for APAC, thinking about when their draft environmental impact report's coming out. So we're doing Marble Valley and Lime Rock Valley this month. In July, we're doing transportation only. It's Director of Transportation, Rafael Martinez, is going to come out and talk to us about that. In August, we're doing Generations at Green Valley, and they've started doing their public outreach in terms of they've had a community meeting at the CST Pavilion to talk with residents about what that project's like. They're having a transportation discussion about their project the same night as our APAC meeting. I'd rather you come here, but I wouldn't be terribly upset if you went and listened to that. So maybe you can inform us on that. And they have at least one more other public discussion that they're intending to have by the fall. Every applicant that I've talked to in terms of their project has said that they anticipate having all their EIRs either out and reviewed and finished, and hopefully they want to be before the Board of Supervisors by December 31st, the end of the year. I also heard from one of the developers that they said that it sounds like, even though we've had no communication, it sounds like EDH 52 and Costco, there may be some movement on that we'll be hearing about very shortly. So literally 5 projects that are not insignificant. They're sort of big projects. So we could use help if you want to come and volunteer. Read some documents. If it's only via email, you send us your comments. And if you're looking for thoughts from us, we have a great many, but we'd like to solicit that from the community. So we're going to be, I guess we're not taking the summer off. And when we say that we're not taking the summer off, we acknowledge, we're volunteers and none of us, well, a few of us are experts, not me. But I'd also remind you, our planning commissioners read the same things we have to read. So it's not like they're not doing anything. This is a lot of work for everyone involved. So if you could spare 20 minutes, an hour to review a document and just give us some thoughts, we'd love to have your help. We're here on Wednesday. We start at 6:30 p.m. and look forward to anybody who wants to come and participate.
Robert, was there something else you wanted to add?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I think Karen's email to you
Covered
said everything in terms of the very abbreviated calendar we have, and a lot of things to address.
Yeah, so there's a lot of projects, and we didn't talk about Creekside Village, although our standing committee has been very engaged with the applicant there. I believe I'm going to a meeting for that tomorrow afternoon to hear more about that. So we appreciate the engagement that we're getting from developers and applicants. I've talked to Serrano Associates several times in the last month and a half. So we're hoping that, we start from a position of being neutral and saying, what is this project? What are the benefits? What are the impacts? And then we want to find where it balances out. If you want to come and work on a project because you want to stop it, we want to hear from you, but that's not how we have to be neutral when we look at this. So we encourage anybody who wants to be engaged and is willing to help us out, we would appreciate it.
Very good, thank you. And so I think we're down to the ones that aren't covered. We kind of covered thriving economy. June 18th, the Board of Supervisors will be hearing that, and we'll decide if SEED is going to be the new term used for the group as opposed to CDAC, et cetera. On public infrastructure, we reported before on the Navigation Center, but then on May 21st, the Board of Supervisors specifically directed staff to develop a permanent navigation center with standalone transitional housing units at 300 Fair Lane, which is adjacent to the jail. So,
which I proposed 2 years ago. So.
Okay, and the Board of Supervisors also directed staff to develop a temporary family area at the site. So work going on there, and the board basically said, go, let's make this happen. Because I think where the temporary navigation center is, there's ongoing issues there, and we're trying to address those, but we're looking forward to get the new facility built, but recognizing the jail improvements have to be made first And so that puts this completion of this navigation center out a couple of years. So it's not going to happen quickly. We're going to be in the existing navigation center for some time, but at least the plans have been made and the funding is being identified. Most of it's available now. So we'll have to just make sure that that's still available into the future. Workforce excellence, I still haven't gotten the details I was promised on that. I followed up and still haven't heard back, but I'll try to do that again. Strategic innovation, they've announced that they're going to have their first meeting, and this is staff only, for June 10th. But hopefully, when they take some minutes, we'll be able to share what's going on there, because it shouldn't only be an internal activity. I mean, there's a lot of innovation that happens outside of the walls of the county domain, and so hopefully we'll all be able to share in participating and understanding what they've come up with and other ideas later on. Youth Commission, we're waiting until the fall when Oak Ridge School reopens so that we know have our new commissioners and we can make invitations to get a representative here on our committee. And then the District 2 Communities Report, John had to go, but do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to say, there's been a lot going on, with the conversations I've had with Scott Hodson, especially, that development on Creekside. So
yeah,
there's some things going on there. One of the things I was going to speak on the Senate floor tomorrow, and it was on waiving the solar requirements for the people in Grizzly Flat. I don't have to attend because they put it on consent, so it looks like it's going to pass through. And all that has to do is go in front of the governor and be signed. So that's a great thing. And then Title 25, the board actually voted unanimously to put that. So they will now start being able to build on June 21st. The small homes out there in Grizzly Flat. They're not tiny homes, but they're small homes. And actually, Title 25, they can actually build larger homes, but they have to pertain to that, on different requirements. It's Title 25. But 750 square foot or less won't require solar. There's no solar requirements or sprinklers added to those homes. So they're static. They're going to build one house. It's going to be a model, and it'll be a model for El Dorado County. And it's a great thing, especially that people out there came together as a community. They're all excited about getting this done. So it's a great thing.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, Brandon.
Talk about Title 25 stuff for like 5 years.
Yep.
Well, basically, it's anybody that was impacted by the Caldor fire. There is also a housing area that was up there by, I think it was like, not Fresh Pond, but Strawberry is what it was. There was some houses that were burned up there, so they would qualify. And then also the mosquito fire too. There were some residents there. They will be able to qualify too. So it's not just focused on Grizzly Flat, but mostly Grizzly Flat.
Based on
Yeah, basically based on if the people, a lot of them is because Title 25 was put in place for the people that had no insurance. And that's what it's trying to do, is help them rebuild.
So it's more than just Grizzly Flats, but it is
Right.
a lot more.
Yeah, a lot more. Yeah, it's more mostly pertain to Grizzly Flat.
Butte County was actually, I think, kind of the test case, and then we followed up with our Title
Right,
25.
our
We've been
Title
following the
25
model they
too,
put
yeah.
together many years ago with that campfire, right? Up in
Right,
Butte County,
campfire.
so. But I think there's refinement. Obviously, we were able to benefit from what they had done. And when planning got a hold of that, they were able to go through it.
Yeah, I
make
looked
some
into it any way I
refinements.
could to find this provision at Title 25 that Butte County. So I brought it to Karen Gardner, and we worked on it. We pushed it through and got it done. So, and it's going to help the residents out there. So everybody's ecstatic. They really are. People are really excited, especially when you're living in an RV, especially 2 years ago when the snow was like anywhere from 5 to 6 feet deep. And the only source of heat was propane. So the food bank and myself was getting propane bottles, and we're taking in with snowshoes and on a sled and taking them to the people, the residents live there, because that was their only source of heat. And you know what it's like in an RV, how cold it can get when there's not very much insulation. So I just can't let them go through another winter. That's all there is to it.
One update.
Yeah.
I'm still in the customer program state pioneer, and I don't know if you brought this up in previous meetings, but they have a $75 rebate program they started. So
Yes.
you have to pay, but then you can submit.
Associated with air conditioning tune-ups.
Yeah,
For
that's
the
what
same one, yes, yeah.
Their HVAC tune-ups.
Right.
You pay for it, and then you can get a $75 credit back.
There's also some programs that are to be introduced very soon that were presented to the Board of Supervisors at the last meeting relative to if you don't have solar, being able to put solar on your house with battery backup, which makes you independent, which means you probably don't have to have a generator when PG&E has one of their power outages. You can use the battery backup to the extent that that gets you through your energy needs without having to run a generator and stuff. But that program probably won't be officially introduced until like August, but there is briefing material at the board level, and I'm looking forward to when it's actually activated and you can sign up. So
Who's bringing that forward?
Um,
Because I've heard about that, but I didn't know where to find more information.
Pioneer Community Energy, but they actually had a presentation that was made at our last board meeting, so we can forward that to you. That's the best place to refer you, because it gets into all of the specifics of how it's going to be implemented, what qualifies and what doesn't. They have several different pictures of what happens in a power outage, what happens in a normal, they show you the flow of energy. But the biggest advantage that I see is if there is a PSPS and they shut your power down, you can run independently behind the meter from the battery storage you have to power your home.
That's what I'm interested in. I
That's
had
what I'm
power for
interested too.
5
I want to
days.
get
We
rid
were
of
in the
that
same
generator.
neighborhood.
I know, right?
February, we had no power.
I want to get rid of the
4 or 5
generator
days.
thing. So, and this would be a way to do it. And the other part is it's at no cost. Right. Their PPIs basically, they benefit from that, but they do an analysis.
Yeah,
and
but is there a lease agreement or an
No.
MOU?
No, there is an agreement with Pioneer Energy through their service provider, and they do all the maintenance on it. So, but it's not a lease agreement.
If you sell your house, is it contingent upon some agreement with Pioneer?
All of the stuff that's in there says how easy it is to transfer, but I do know there's a buyout provision in these things. If you have the solar on and you didn't pay for it, they paid all the expenses, and you want to buy it out after 5 years, because that's when they've recovered their PPI reimbursement, the purchase power agreement, PPA reimbursements, then you can buy it out at whatever price they quote. So, and there's a couple different times you can do it. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Sunrun's been doing this in the neighborhoods for quite a long time, but this is tied to Pioneer Energy, which is going to save us a lot more money than some of the other service offerings out there,
Interesting.
more associated with PG&E.
The energy company have like requirements to put certain amount of battery storage on the grid, and some of the big energy companies buy massive 5-acre, 10-acre batteries that are 100, 200 megawatts, but this company has found a way where they like put it in your house, they fork out the cost, it helps Pioneer meet their requirements, and so they're sort of like renting the battery out of your house, and they're using it when they need it during regular times, but when the power goes out, then you get
Right.
to use it.
Right.
So it's like an insurance product for free.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be a really good discussion.
It's a great program,
One
and
of these meetings, when
yes.
it comes before the board, that would be a great discussion here.
Yep.
in El Dorado
Once it's
Hills, for sure.
authorized, we should have them come and make us presentation just for El Dorado Hills. I
That'd
agree.
be fabulous.
There's a second phase of the program that affects people who have solar but not the battery backup, which will allow them to establish the batteries, put the batteries in, and now go behind the meter. So you have your microgrid. So if you're a current solar user, but you're putting all that extra power back into PG&E and not collecting it for your own use, it's a way to do that.
And getting billed for the electric you use at night, not just to Pioneer, which is a reduced rate, but you're still paying PG&E for their transportation infrastructure for delivering it, which is 70% of the cost of the electricity. That's a fun thing to
70% of your
discover, by
bill.
the way.
Can't wait for that presentation. September.
We'll send you the Board of Supervisors stuff, because that gives you the basic information. But once the program is officially implemented, then we'll have them out and discuss it more thoroughly. So
So one more thing I have to say, there was a letter that I wrote to the California Public Utilities Commission, basically about AT&T pulling their landlines, especially for the people living in the rural area. Well, they actually said they can't do that. AT&T will not be able to do that, according to what the commission did, thanks to a letter that I wrote. And they thanked me for that. So I just want to let you know on that.
That's good. I was worried about that.
Yeah.
the landlines.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay, any go backs?
I want to thank David and welcome him for being here tonight.
Yes.
And thanks, Brandon, for being here tonight.
All right, very good. Appreciate that. So I'm going to move on to item 7, council member items. The next meeting is Monday, July 1st. We know it's the July 4th week, but to try to find another date means we run up against APAC's meetings and other things. So we're going to stay with July 1st. And again, you can attend via Zoom if you can't be here in person. So our guest speaker is going to be Nikki Mosinger. She's with the probation department, and she's going to talk about the opioid lawsuit settlement similar to the tobacco fund settlement that was done several years ago. The opioid settlement was done by a number of different agencies, counties and cities joining force, basically getting an attorney, going through. So we've now gotten the first year's allocation of what that settlement funds will be. And it's out, but each year is going to have a different discussion, a different amount of money that gets distributed because it kind of starts slow. But we actually interviewed with a number of different, at the county level, we interviewed with a number of different nonprofits and county agencies to determine how to distribute the money. And we can kind of talk you through all that. But the bottom line is our probation department is going to get a lot of those funds. And I don't think people realize the services probation offers. They tend to think it's anklets and people being followed. It's much more than that. So this will give Nikki a chance to describe what they're going to do with the opioid funds, knowing that there's a bigger picture, how we got to this point, first year allocation, and then how probation is going to apply them. But there was a presentation made to the full board of supervisors, which we can also provide to you if you want to listen to every detail of it. There were six, I remember right, six agencies or nonprofits selected with different amounts of money. Nobody got the total amount of money they asked for because there wasn't that much money available. But multiple agencies within the county and then other service agencies are also involved. So what the Board of Supervisors tried to do, unlike the tobacco money, which just kind of became discretionary, supervisors can do whatever they want with it. We focused on where is the greatest educational needs, where do we do things to try to make sure we don't have these issues. So a lot of the money actually goes to our sheriff's office and their new program called SHIELD, which is similar to the old DARE program where they go in and meet with the students and they talk about, the effects. And so they have the theme that says one pill can kill. And that's what they're trying to, because with all the fentanyl exposure and other things that are out there, unfortunately, our youth become victims because they don't recognize trying something once can be the end of your life. Because you don't know what's in a fentanyl pill that comes from an uncontrolled substance, how heavy it's dosed, right? So their program, SHIELD, is one of the things that monies from this opioid settlement is going into. Marshall Hospital is getting money to go into the program. So we'll kind of give you a brief summary, and then we'll talk about the specifics of how probation is applying their money, because they got a substantial amount of money to interact with the community in doing this. So that will be next month. And seeing nobody else with raised hands, we're going to declare this meeting adjourned at 6:54, less than 2 hours. So I'm putting a challenge on the APAC.
You're gonna have to talk to Serrano Associates because that's a lot to cover in one night.
It is. It's a challenge, that's all. You don't have to accept the challenge, but I've been to some APAC
Actually-
meetings like almost 2.5, 3 hours, so.